Today's presentation was put together to help facilitate dialogue around critical thinking questions. Our learning target today is, how can we create and use more questions within our classrooms that fall into the top 3 categories of Bloom's taxonomy and trigger higher order thinking? Within the remembering stage, teachers are asking their students to recall, restate, and/or relay information. The expectation is for your students to have knowledge of the major ideas and be able to regurgitate the information learned.
When asking questions within the understanding stage, you're asking your students not only to verbalize the material, but also understand the meaning of the information being discussed. The applying stage is asking your students to use strategies, concepts, principles, and theories when they encounter a new situation. You are starting to brush the surface of high-order thinking by asking students to know and understand the material and to use that information effectively. Although these types of questions certainly have their time and place, we want to make sure to get their minds past the memorization phase and into critical thinking as much as possible. Keeping your developmental level in mind, every student is capable of some form of critical thinking. The beginning stage of higher order thinking is analyzing the information. The teacher expects the students to dissect information to explore relationships and understandings. The teacher guides their thinking by probing, observing, evaluating, questioning, organizing, and dissecting.
Some sample questions could be, how is blank related to? What conclusions can you draw? What are some of the motives behind? What ideas prove? What is the relationship between? Some analyzing keywords to consider as you develop objectives and questions for your lesson include calculate, focus, illustrate, prioritize, and simplify, among many others. When the students are questioned in the analyzing stage, they are expected to break information down, see patterns, organize, find hidden meanings, and identify components of the topic. Next, stretch their thinking into the evaluating stage by asking them to make decisions based on in-depth reflection, criticism, and assessment. The teacher's role in this stage is to help clarify, accept, and guide their thinking.
Some questions could be, do you agree with the actions? Would it be better if? What information would you use to support the view? Can you defend your position about? Or who will gain and who will lose? Some evaluating keywords to consider include compare, defend, opinion, reframe, and value. When students are questioned in this stage, they're expected to compare and contrast ideas, assess value, make choices based on reasoned argument, and recognize subjectivity. The final questioning tier in Bloom's taxonomy is the creating stage, where your students will be generating new products and ideas or demonstrating new ways of viewing things. The students are taking what they have learned and expanding on it to create new thoughts and perspectives on the topic.
Some sample questions could be, can you see a possible solution to? Why don't you devise your own way to? How many ways can you create new and unusual uses for? Can you design a blank to blank? Some creating keywords to consider as you develop objectives and questions for your lesson include adopt, formulate, initiate, elaborate, and theorize, just to name a few. When the students are questioned in the creating stage, they are expected to be using old ideas to create new ones, generalizing from given facts, relating knowledge from several areas, and predicting and/or drawing conclusions. As you take a moment to process this information, think about how you are phasing your questions within your classroom to ensure they are coming across with the intent you had in mind. Maybe all it would take is to change some keywords within a question you ask, and you will end up with a completely different result.
Critical thinking is something that needs to be taught and practiced to truly make it an everyday habit for your students. The more we can introduce this idea in our classrooms, the more equipped our students will be. At this time, you will be receiving a handout to help facilitate a group discussion around critical thinking questions. Thank you for your time and attention.
created using Powtoon.